Here's a hard truth. The reactions that our children are giving us is not always about the reaction that they're giving us. It's about the unresolved issues that we've had within our own childhood with our parents. Now, think about it like this. If you've had to raise your siblings, you were the little man in the house or the little mom in the house where you got dinner prepared, you did bath time, you made sure that they were in bed by certain times, you were responsible for homework and not in a healthy sibling way, chances are you were parentified and you have to learn how to reparent yourself. You have to give yourself the emotional support that wasn't given to you. You have to give yourself the care, the love that wasn't given to you. You have to learn how to regulate your own emotions. And you have to learn how to see yourself and know that you are worthy to fail and try again. I'm going to say that again, that you are worthy to not get it right the first time and to try again. I believe a lot of times in our adulthood, the reason why some of us don't take leaps, me being included, was because I didn't have the luxury to not get it right. I had a survival mindset because my mother had a survival mindset. I have to go to work, take care of the bills, and then do it all over again. And I know for me, I am not wanting to live that way. And I'm definitely not wanting my children to see that this is what life is about. Now, I can say that these kids are spoiled. And when I say spoiled, I mean that they don't have the same inherent beliefs or the same foundations that I had. And I'm grateful for that. When we do the work as parents, we can absolutely shift what was from our lives and give our children something different. But even when we think about giving our children something different, I want us to think about it from a space of a healthy place. Because a lot of times we become parents and we're like, I'm never going to do this or I'm never going to do that. Sometimes that's not always healthy because we're trying to relive our childhood through our children. That's not what reparenting is. Reparenting is simply being able to walk alongside our children as we are parenting them, but also bringing our inner child along so we can heal, grow, and thrive while we are consciously parenting our seeds. I remember early on in my own parenting journey, that is what I did. I wasn't able to get this. So, my son, you're going to be decked out in all of these things. But it didn't help. It didn't fulfill me in the way in which I thought because a lot of my issues were emotional suppression, that lack of affection, not knowing how to communicate. And it took me a minute to get to that place. And so, parents, I want us to understand that the very things that we don't heal, we're absolutely going to pass on. And it may not be something that we're doing intentionally, but it's going to happen because that's what habit is. That's what routine is. That's how patterns are formed. We continue to do it and it becomes the thing. It becomes the norm. But I know many of us, especially those of us that are on the journey of healing, we don't want to continue things that have been done to us, especially that have been unhealthy. But I also understand and I know that sometimes we just don't know. And when we don't know, we don't know. And this is why we're having this conversation. This is why the legacy table is here for us to unpack these conversations together. Because I'm aware everybody doesn't have community. Everybody doesn't feel safe with the people that they grew up with. And let's just pause right there and talk about that. How many of us have tried to have conversations with our parents and it didn't fare well? I'll raise my hand. How many of us have tried to just sweep it under the rug and for the sake of the fact that this is family, we kept certain things going? I'll raise my hand. But then how many of us have gotten to that place where it was just like, this is too much. I'm tired of putting on. I'm tired of showing up as if everything is okay when I know it's not and y'all know it's not. And so I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to raise both my hands. See, that's about change. That's where legacy comes in. That's where doing something different matters the most. And on that journey, it is lonely. It's lonely because not everybody wants to change. Because when you have to change, that means you have to address some things that have kept you the same. And when we address the things that kept us the same, well, then we start digging into history. And when we start digging into history, not everybody wants to uncover their part. Don't worry about that though. Don't worry about that though. It's okay. It's okay. Because God chose you. God called you to do it. And so, although sometimes it may be lonely on that part of the journey, I am your witness. Okay. I am your witness that He is always going to bring you people that are on the same journey that you're on at the time that you need it the most. A lot of us believe that we always need people with us on the journey, but we don't. The journey of healing sometimes is lonely. There are junctures on this path, y'all, where there's not going to be anybody there. That's okay. And be okay with that. Be okay with the fact that God called you to do it. And so because you get to do it, He's with you. Okay? Let's just rest in that for a second. God is with me on this journey. I'm not alone. It may feel lonely, but I'm not alone. And as I pivot, there are going to be people that cross my path that are going to encourage me, that are going to help me, that are going to teach me, that are going to challenge me. And I have a decision to make. Am I willing to grow? Am I willing to press into so that I can see the very thing that I envision? Here's what I want to ask us. Do you have a vision for your parenting? Do you have a vision for your life? I remember when the Lord started talking to me about having a vision for parenting, and I'm like, what does that mean? What does that really mean? Like having a vision for parenting. Well, He explained it to me very simple. The way you do a vision board at the beginning of the year, whenever you do it, you need to have a whole vision for how you want to parent. What are the values that you're instilling in your children? What are the beliefs that you're instilling in them? What are the lessons that you want them to carry with them for the rest of their life? Whose voice do you want them to be able to follow? The wisdom, the knowledge, all of the things. And when I started to really think about that, it shifted the way in which I parented. And hopefully it will shift the way in which you parent. Well, let's get back to why it's necessary to reparent. Now, I wrote down some things, you all, because I want us to really lay this out very plain and clear. When certain things happen in our parenting journey with our kids, and we start to feel disrespected, a lot of times that's equivalent to the fact that we weren't heard when we were growing up. So if we're always reactive to their actions, we need to unpack that. We need to sit down and think, why am I this way? Why do I feel like I need to match the energy of a child that has not been here before? I know. I used to be that way. The next thing is when we overreact to the small things. And I don't mean like when you tell them, go clean your room and you give them and you lay it out and then they don't do it. No, that's not an overreaction to a small thing. But just the smallest thing where I'll give this example. My kids like to be in the living room, especially my youngest son. I mean, the TV is in the living room, but just lounging around. I remember as a kid, my grandfather saying that you don't get to lounge around. Like, it's Saturday. There's always something to do. We can clean. He was big on having Bible study, and not the kind that transforms your life, but the form of godliness and you deny the power thereof. That was the type of Bible study that he was on. And so I was never able to just rest. I was never able to just chill at my grandparents' house. My sons, they can chill. They kick up their feet on the couch, all of the things. And I remember one time that it annoyed me so bad that I'm just like, you need to go brush your teeth, wash your face, put your clothes on. Like, there are so many things that you could be doing aside from just laying here or watching TV. And then when I started to really think about, like, why is this making you upset? Well, because you didn't get to do that in your childhood. And it's not to say that we don't have boundaries or regulations for our children around certain things, but there are just some times where it's not that deep. But because it was that deep for us, and we've not learned, even in our adulthood, how to rest, how to reset, and how to regulate our nervous system, sometimes we spill that over onto our children. Another thing, y'all, that shows up in real life that shows us, ooh, you probably need to reparent, is when we shut down. We shut down. I don't want to talk about it. It doesn't matter. It is what it is. I'm good. That's because we learned that behavior. When something was happening in our home as kids, we either observed adults not communicating, or they were cussing each other out, or it was silent. Something big happened, nobody talked about it. That's learned behavior. We have to unlearn that. We have to learn how to communicate effectively. Effective communication is not always just about having the right words to say. And let me lean in when I say this one. It's not always about having the right words to say, fancy words. Sometimes effective communication is, I apologize. Notice I didn't say I'm sorry, because I really don't like that word sorry. But I apologize. I apologize for not listening to you. I apologize for overreacting. See, an apology is naming the behavior that you did also, not just saying, I apologize. That's a healthy form of communication. I believe in parenting, that's one of the highest forms of healthy communication. When we take accountability and we show our children, this is how you are responsible for your actions. That's a part of healthy legacy. I talked about this already, but the overcompensating, doing things for our kids, doing things even for ourselves because we didn't have it growing up and not from a healthy place. That's a telltale sign sometimes that we need to reparent ourselves, that we need to really dig into these things. Because it's not about our children triggering us, y'all. It's just them revealing, it's raising a mirror to us of the things that were not right. And that's okay. It does not mean that you're failing in parenting. It does not mean that your children are bad kids. Because what is really a bad kid? Aside from kids who are troubled and probably have had a tumultuous childhood or whatever they had. Because I truly believe we all have stories. Everyone has a story. Everyone has a story. And so even our parents, they've had stories. Their childhood may have been whatever it was. And depending on the generation that they were raised in, that is going to add layers to how they parent. As adult children, we do need to operate in compassion, but I also understand there are times where we have to go no contact. And shameless, not so shameless plug, y'all, that is still the number one listened episode on the podcast, is navigating no contact with your parents, because it's a real thing. And it's more prevalent than we believe, especially in the Black community. But the way we do it sometimes is very unhealthy. I'm cutting you off. I'm not dealing with you no more. And then when someone passes, the person that we may have cut off, a wave of emotions hit us. A ton of thoughts, memories, shoulda, coulda, woulda hit us. And that's really what I want us to understand as we navigate through these conversations. There are healthy ways in which we can really go no contact with individuals and not have any aught in our heart, any unforgiveness or any bitterness or any anger. because I've been in all of those emotions. I felt them all. I've felt them all, especially when it came to relationship with my mom, because I was just so angry. I didn't understand why you're the parent, but you couldn't do what you needed to do. And then as an adult, I'm trying to sort of maintain a relationship with you, but I really don't like you because I don't know you. And yeah. So now I'm just going to cut you off because I got to deal with me. And when I came back from that, of the cutoff, because I had a strong cutoff game, y'all, I had to realize, and I had to talk to the Lord about it. Like, okay, how do I do this in a way that still honors my father and mother, as the word says? Because here's the thing, and I've shared this before in previous episodes, that was used as a sort of like religious quote. The scripture says, honor your father and mother. And so she would use that, but she really had no idea of what that meant. And at the time, I didn't either. So it was used for me as a place of guilt more than there was a place of true honor. And yes, I thank you for who you are and what you gave to me. But now that I'm an adult, there are things that I recognize that are not healthy. And so I need to take it a step further and maybe go a different way for a time period or whatever that is. Now I recognize that. Before I didn't. And so as I'm navigating even a new relationship with her, and it is very minimal, but it's from a healthier place for me. And that's what I had to learn is I can't change her. Legacy, y'all, is not about trying to change the past, but it's about doing something different for you, your family, and for your future. Now, if people want to join in on it, that's amazing. If we are trying to build intergenerational legacy, that is a blessing, but it may not always happen. And I don't want us to stop and stay stagnant because we can't bring the people along on the journey that we want on the journey. Everybody's not going to go. Everybody's not going to go. And everybody can't go. And we have to be okay with that because there are things that are going to come up along the journey that are going to be like, ooh, yeah, this isn't for you. And that's okay. One of the beautiful things about our children seeing us reparent and heal aloud is that it's shaping them. We don't always have to tell them anything because before it's taught, it's caught. So they're watching our actions, our interactions. They're watching our behavior. They're listening to what we say and how we say it. And you better believe they're catching on to it. So what does this look like? What does this cycle honestly look like? Let me paint the picture. So unhealed is reactive parenting. Reactive parenting is emotional instability in the home. Emotional instability in the home is going to create repeated patterns in our children. That's how it looks. That's how the cycle looks. And so this is why it's so important to unpack. This is why we reparent. So what does reparenting really look like? In just a small snippet. Pausing before you react. This is a part of reparenting. Pause before you react. Think about this. Before you get ready to say whatever you get ready to say to that child, or even to yourself, because it's twofold, y'all. You pause. Okay, how is this going to shape the relationship? How is this going to build the relationship? Am I operating from my ego because I'm being defensive? Or am I saying what's truthful and what's needful to help bring repair, to help bring understanding? That's a simple strategy to start to reparent. Always think about that. Pause before I react. If you need to come back to it, come back to it. Everything is not urgency. When we start creating urgency around everything, this is how we keep our nervous system dysregulated. Everything isn't urgent in the moment, but it is important. And that's the difference. understanding what I need to address in this moment because it's important and I need to bring correction to it, versus I can get back to this because I need to think about this. I probably need to unpack why this really made me respond or feel the way that it did. And so, parents, if you're listening to this and you're not even a parent and you're listening to this and you're like, you know what? The legacy that I want to create, I really can't right now because I need to reparent. I need to think about some things. I created a course. It is called Reparenting You, and it walks you through the various stages of reparenting. We're dealing with emotion regulation, nervous system regulation, foundational work, understanding that the metric, the movement to all of this is forgiveness. So if you know you need that, hit the link in the description and it's going to take you right there. It's about 6 weeks. So this is not something that you're going to drive through because you're going to have to unpack this. But I guarantee you that at the end of those 6 weeks, you're going to have more clarity, you're going to have more focus, and you're going to have more resolve in your life that is going to impact the roles in which you operate in. So until next time, y'all, stay at the table. Don't back away. Pull up a chair because we're going to continue to talk about legacy.